everyday witches emerge from the shadows of secrecy. Broom closets are flinging open and witches are taking flight. Whether you are hiding in your cozy closet or flying with pride, stay for a spell as Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon and her guests share magical moments, stir the cauldron, and debunk misinformation and misconceptions about paganism, witches, and our wonderful world of magic.
Welcome to today's episode. I have a special guest today, and her name is Willow, and she's originally from Belgium. Welcome, Willow.
Hi, Theodora. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're originally from Belgium, and you now live in the United States, correct?
Yes, I've been in the United States for 10 years now, but my Wiccan training and pagan beginnings, my roots are all back in Belgium.
Tell us how that started, your spiritual path as pagan.
Oh, well, I was originally born and raised in a Catholic family and dragged to church every week like a good Catholic, which I hated because I was bored to death. But what do you do when you grow up like that? You don't know anything better. As I grew older, I stopped going to church, but I didn't give religion any thought in any way. Most people in Belgium are basically Catholic, but they don't really practice. Religion isn't that important there. So as I grew older, I had my daughter, divorced my first husband because he was doing nothing but cheating on me, remarried after being a single mom for a while. And I had really big struggles with my daughter because she was having mental issues that were at that point undiagnosed. And I was feeling like I was a horrible mother. And one day a friend of ours came over for dinner and he told me like, oh, you feel so guilty, but all that guilt about being a bad mother and stuff, it's kind of useless. In my religion, we don't believe in guilt. And I was like, what? Yes, my religion, we don't believe in guilt. Guilt doesn't get us anywhere. Guilt is something from the Catholics, and you don't really need that. I'm like, what kind of religion are you talking about?
It sounds like a wonderful religion.
Yes. He's like, well, I'm Wiccan, and we believe that you have to take responsibility for your actions. You can't blame everything on the devil like you do in the Catholic faith. And you can't solve everything with a couple of prayers. You have to work at it and change your ways. You are responsible for yourself and your actions. Okay, but how does that help me with my daughter? Well, if you think you're a bad mother, then see how you can improve your motherhood and see what you can do better. That's going to benefit more than just sitting around feeling guilty and beating yourself up. So I got really curious and I wanted to know more about this religion.
I would too.
The coven that he was with was having some sort of an open day to show the world basically what they were doing. And I went there and I felt like coming home. It was so beautiful. They did a small ritual about the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and they honored those elements. They honored the god and goddess. it was with some beautiful songs, and just the wording was all so poetic. And all the people there were so warm and so genuine. And so, yeah, I can't describe it any other way than coming home.
So it was a home that you never felt in the Catholic Church.
Oh, definitely. In the Catholic Church, I just went to sit for an hour, get bored, and then finally could go back home.
I had the same experience.
Yeah, it had absolutely no value to me.
Did you join that coven?
Yes, that same day I signed up for their next training program. Yeah, that was the beginning, and it never stopped. That was in 2002. So that's 20 years now. I joined as a Rudy, and they had told me that I could, by the first class, I was expected to choose a Wiccan name. And within the coven setting, we would use that name only. So I gave that a whole lot of thought. My then husband came up with, why not Willow? And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds nice. That feels nice. Yeah, why not? And I told our Wiccan friend that had introduced me, I'm like, I think it's going to be Willow. And he goes like, oh, wow, that's the tree of the goddess. And I was like, oh, no, I probably shouldn't be doing that because I'm not important enough to be carrying that big of a name. I should pick something else.
That's cute.
But he convinced me that that was not going to be an issue, so I stuck with it.
So your husband at the time was supportive. Did he also go with you to the coven?
He did. He joined too because he enjoyed that open day and that ritual experience, but he didn't end up staying. There was some conflict a couple of years later, and yeah, that didn't work out well.
So you stuck with it, kept your Willow name, which is a beautiful name, by the way.
Well, thank you.
When you decided to change your religion like this and you found your home, was this something that your friends and family accepted, or was this something like this unknown religion and you had to teach them what it was?
Well, I had to definitely teach them what it was. It was very unknown, but it was not really a problem. It's not commonly known, but it's also not demonized the way it seems to be here in the US.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, people, but like I said in the beginning, people don't really practice their Christianity or Catholicism. They don't really go to church anymore. It's like, yeah, we were born and we were baptized by our parents, and so I guess that's our religion, but they don't really do anything with religion in general. They also don't have all the stigma about the devil coming up with all that stuff, and it's just not an issue. They're just curious, like, oh, then what is it? And when they learn that it's all about nature, then everything is just great because everybody loves beautiful flowers, right?
Right. How long were you pagan before you moved to the United States?
A good 10 years. In Belgium, I had gone through all of my initiations, and I still am a third degree Wiccan in my tradition. I was running my own coven, and I was running an open circle for the Sacred Well congregation. In Belgium, it's very common to have closed coven setting experiences with people that go through the same training, but there is very little available for people who want to just come and see what it's all about. And Sacred Well is because it's here in the United States, it developed in a bit of a different direction, and it is more open to the public, so to speak. I started a Sacred Well group over in Belgium so that I could do things for the public, for people who wanted to come to ritual occasionally, but who were not interested in getting the training and the initiations into the priesthood. Because that's quite an engagement, and not everybody wants that. But there's a lot of people that do feel Wiccan inside, that do want to connect with nature, that do want that balance with the god and goddess, which Christianity sorely lacks. Those people were coming to our open rituals that we would do under the name of Sacred Well.
Sacred Well started in Belgium, is that correct?
No, Greencraft tradition, which is the tradition that I was initiated in, that started in Belgium. Sacred Well kind of did and kind of did not. It started there because the founders met the founders of Greencraft, and they talked about it together, and then Tanakito came back to the US and started his tradition here, and Arguisha was my high priest back in Belgium. He stayed over there and built up the Greencraft tradition over there.
So you educated people on the tradition, on Wicca.
Yes. The education is basically a training into priesthood within our religion.
But you also had it open to the public so anybody could join the open circles. Is that correct?
It's a little bit, you can compare it to the monastery and the people that go to church. Not everybody wants to go into the monastery. So the closed coven setting with the training into priesthood could be compared to the nuns in the monastery, and then the open circles under Sacred Well could be compared to the church that people can go to.
You said that the religion is not demonized in Belgium. Does that mean that that's what you've experienced here in the United States, that it has a whole different connotation?
Absolutely. I have lost a bunch of potential friendships because of that. There's one that stands out to me real strong. This was a lady. She was a nurse. We met her through her profession because my husband needed to go walk on the treadmill in the hospital on an almost daily basis because he had put a stent in his heart. So it was his rehab, and in order to support him, I went with him, and I got to talking to the nurse that ran the place, and we really hit it off. It was just awesome. We were turning into good friends, I thought. Then we were going to meet outside of that setting, and we were going to go do yoga together, just as friends. And then she brought it up to me that before we go any further with this, I do need to tell you something. I'm like, oh? She's like, yes, I'm a Christian. And I'm like, yeah, so? Well, maybe it would be good if you would maybe reconsider your faith, because it's not considered all that good in my faith group, and I'm not sure if we can actually be friends if you... And I was like, what? She's like, no, but don't worry.
So she knew that you were not Christian. At some point that came up in conversation before the yoga class.
Yes, it had come up in conversation in the hospital, but back there she couldn't really comment on it because she was there for her function and not in a personal setting. But as soon as things became personal and we were going to be friends, it was an issue. And I didn't have to worry because she was going to read me from her Bible and I would understand. The only thing that I ended up understanding from this whole thing is that her God did not allow her to be friends with whomever she wanted to. In my religion, I can be friends with anyone. I can love the entire creation, but apparently she cannot. And then I'm the one that needs to change. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
That was a terrible experience.
I've had a few similar ones, but this one was the most painful because we had already had so many conversations and we were already a whole ways into building that friendship, and then it collapsed. From that, I kind of learned to say it straight out as soon as I meet people, like, oh yeah, I'm Wiccan. And some people have an open mind about it, and some don't, but at least those relationships don't even start, and then it's less painful.
Yeah. So just that one experience taught you how to deal with new people in the future.
Yes. Of course, it doesn't help that I'm in a small town here, too. I mean, I think it's different in a more city setting. I think people have heard and seen more of the world, but I'm living in this little rural area. And yeah, a lot of people still have those really old-fashioned ideas about how paganism is satanic. And there's been some stuff going around on Facebook when they first found out that the whole town was doomed now that there were witches living here.
And they were talking about you and your husband?
Yes, they were. It's ridiculous, but that's what happened.
Yes, that is ridiculous. But you decided to stay there. So how is it now living there all those years in the same tiny town?
It is wonderful. I love it here. I don't have a lot of people that think the same way, in religiously speaking, as I do. But I did make a bunch of friends over the years that are open to other thoughts, other beliefs, other religions. And I love it. I really do. Plus, we have 10 acres here with some animals and my garden, and I'm an herbalist, so I'm growing a bunch of my own herbs and my vegetables, my chickens, my sheep. It's just so wonderful every day to just get up and take care of everyone and be close to nature. For a lot of people, a religion is something spiritually in your head that you sit around and meditate about, or you read in the Bible. That's then for some people their spiritual experience. But for me, I really need to connect with nature more than just thinking about it or talking about it.
Or reading about it?
Yes.
Going back to the lady in yoga class, did you ever go to yoga with her that day, or was that the end of the friendship completely?
It was the end of the friendship because I was very clear about not willing to convert to her religion.
It's disappointing. I know you were sad because it was somebody that you liked and you had looked forward to having a friendship with her, and she just decided that since you didn't think like her and belonged to her faith, that you couldn't be friends. That's very unfortunate for her. For you, you just have to move on and find the people who love you.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of those. So, yeah, I did get over it. It's not like I'm still grieving that, but yeah.
But it probably surprised you because you didn't have an experience like that in Belgium.
No, I never had anything like that. There's also, when you meet people here in a small town, you often get the question like, oh, and what church do you go to? Whereas when you meet new people in Belgium, then they go like, oh, and what do you do? They ask about your occupation before they ask about your church. And here, the church seems more important than your occupation.
You're in Missouri. I'm in Texas, and I have the same experience here. They want to know where I go to church.
Yeah, it's a totally different approach, and religion around here is so strong and so important. It's almost your primary identity. And for me, it never was. It's an important part of my life. It's not who I am. It's what I believe.
Right. It's not something about yourself that you feel you have to tell people at the first meeting.
No, but around here, apparently it is. And so, yeah, I lose a lot of potential friendships over it. But then on the other hand, sometimes you meet people in other settings. I, for example, taught belly dance class for a while here in town. And those students, they get to know me as their belly dance teacher. And so they don't ask too many questions at first because they know who I am. I'm their teacher. And so we dance and we laugh and have fun together. And then at some point, they find out, and it's not that big of a deal anymore because they already know me. They already know that my values are okay, that I'm not demonic and I don't eat babies or.
So up so up there they think that you eat babies up there too?
I think so. That's if you judge the reactions that they give, the fear that they have around Wiccans and pagans, you would think that's what we do.
That's really unfortunate that people believe all those misconceptions. And that's why I want to send the message out through this podcast of who we are and who we're not.
Absolutely. I really, really like that. And that's why I wanted to be a part of this, because I don't engage in just any kind of interview.
I'm so grateful that you are open to being interviewed. Now, do you have a coven where you live now?
Yes, we started a coven here first, a local one, because there were a few people that very carefully did come out of the broom closet, to me anyway, not publicly. And they were looking for a place where they could maybe learn something more. But that very soon fizzled out because I was trying to teach in the way that I was taught. Back in Belgium, we took our time to really learn and grow and develop ourselves into this priesthood thing. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. And you need to learn about your tradition. You can't just be a priest or priestess in a tradition and not know anything about its history or its roots or how to conduct the ritual and all those little things, the symbolism that you work with, all that needs to be taught. And in Belgium, you learn at a slow rate, so you make all that information part of yourself. You don't have to think about it anymore. I write in runes as quickly, well, maybe not anymore because I haven't in a while, but I used to write my rune symbols just as quickly as I would write regular text in Dutch or in English for that matter. So you get very proficient and then you move on to the next degree and the next degree. And I feel like here in America, people kind of are looking more for instant gratification. They would like to come to class 3 weeks, and in the 4th week, you get your initiation, and then 4 weeks later, you get the next one, and we'll just read through the course material and we're good. I read it all. I got it. No, not really.
Kind of like speed dating. I want to find a husband now.
Yes. That's the feeling that I got here from most people, though. They kind of, they find something new and they want to get it all right away and move on to the next new thing. And that's just not how it works. So that first coven fizzled out. And then over time, we got a few more requests from people that live a little further away. And then Corona hit and everything went online. And I figured, like, maybe we can give it a try. Maybe we can teach those people online and see how that works. And then we only have to come up with a way to get together to do the initiation ritual, because it's very experiential. You can't do that long distance. It has to be in person. So we started that, and that seems to be going really well.
So you know that if they're long distance and then they have to come for the initiation ritual, they must be committed.
Yes. Yes. And the people, we started with a group of 5 and we only have 2 left. The other 3 dropped out, and for various reasons. Some say, well, it didn't click very well with other people in the group, and some just felt like they didn't have the time for it after all. And then some others were like, well, it's just not my thing. And then that's good too. But we have 2 people ready for an initiation now.
There are always people who drop out for whatever reason. That's just the way it is in any setting.
Yes, it is.
Whether it's a belly dancing class or a graduate class or a coven.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I'm not concerned about it. But, yeah, we have 2 people ready for initiation, and they're going to come over in 2 months. I'm looking forward to finally meeting them.
That's going to be exciting. In person, right?
Yes, because it's very different if you teach people within a coven. You get to know each other fairly intimately. You share a lot of the things that you encounter internally, like during guided meditations and things like that. You have these really wow experiences, and then you talk about that in the group, but that's a lot of your innermost thoughts and feelings. And then along with that, there's a lot of your history that comes up, and a lot of you really bare your soul. And it's so personal, and it creates such an intense bond with people. And I was concerned with the online setting that would be more difficult, but it turns out to work almost just as well. I'm not going to say it's equally well, but it's close, much closer than I thought we could get.
But think of it this way. You may not have met these people if it wasn't for the internet.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a wonderful tool. And we wouldn't be having this conversation either without the internet.
That's right. And I've met so many interesting and lovely people online and doing Zoom meetings, and now, on this podcast. So yeah, it's expanding my world.
Yeah, technology stands for nothing these days. And as much as I love nature, I will always need the technology to go along with it.
Well, it's the connection to people.
Yeah, but to maintain that, especially over long distance. And it used to be a phone, but I feel like with the visual added to it, it really helps a lot.
It does. So they didn't kick you out of town?
No, well, we did move 1 mile outside of town, but it's not because they kicked us out. No, we were living in town, but we had like a postage stamp lot, and I had some Angora rabbits that I spin their fur, and the town didn't think that was appropriate because rabbits were considered livestock, and that was not allowed within city limits. So we were like, well, that's really confining, and we kind of want a little bit more freedom. So we moved out of town to 10 acres where I can have all the rabbits I want. And so I added some sheep to that lot too. And now we can really do whatever we want.
Well, you were meant to be a country girl.
Yeah, I think so. Although years ago, back in Belgium, people still have, my old friends and my family still have a hard time believing that is how I live my life now. Because back there, it was all high heels and long nails and makeup every day. And I'm a totally different person now.
Are you happier?
Oh, yes. I am very happy. Mostly because I'm married to the right guy, though. He supports me in everything I do. I can just even think about wanting to maybe try something, and he's already there like, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's try this. And I'm like, wait, I'm just still thinking about this new idea. I don't know if it's going to be my thing yet. So he's very motivating and very supportive in everything. And he is Wiccan too. We teach the classes together and we're going to do the initiations together. So yeah.
You're a team.
That makes it all so much more fun.
Willow, it's been wonderful having you on the show and you sharing about what it's like to be pagan in Belgium versus being pagan in the United States. Thank you for being a guest on my show.
It was a pleasure and my honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. It's actually my honor to have you on the show. It's been wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon. Have a burning question or have a topic you'd love Theodora and her guests to discuss on the show? Contact her through Instagram at Theodora Pendragon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And help us spread the word by leaving us a rating and review and sharing it with your friends. See you next time, and may your magic always shine.